And now to our first conversation. Today's fast-changing economic environment, the need for real-time labor market data and evidence-based decision-making is more critical than ever. And we see in Abuja right there, it's all about boosting MSME growth right now and getting the informal businesses, getting them, some attention, at this point there. Well, to help us unpack all of this, we have Faishayo Layonde. She's the CEO of Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, joining me right here in the studio. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Ladi. Thanks for having me, and good morning. And good
morning
to Lagosians as well.
Yeah, so,
Happy Tuesday.
Yeah, happy Tuesday. At this point, the week is moving, fast. There's so much happening.
Moving.
Yeah, the year. Exactly.
Already H1 wrapping
up. And we see geopolitics, shifting markets, at this point. But right now in Abuja, it's all about MSMEs. In Africa, we're hosting the fourth one here. And, talking about boosting MSME growth, how critical, in your view, is data, about labor market, in actually helping MSMEs, make the right choice, when it comes to employment and all of that.
Fantastic. So thank you very much. I'll do a brief introduction to LSETF. So our mandate is to create job opportunities in Lagos State, right? So we support the ecosystem, both on the entrepreneurship side and the employment side. But the whole idea is everyone should have access to livelihood. Everyone should have access to a job. So whether you're on the supply side of labor, on the demand side of labor. But speaking specifically to the labor market information system, we launched this last year. In 2024, Governor Sanwo-Olu launched this at our employment summit. And since then, we've had very positive engagements where people have reached out to us to ask, what do we do with this amount of data? And so the question you asked is very, very paramount, because as an MSME, what sets me up for success beyond access to finance, access to infrastructure, is actually who I employ to help me sell my produce or get my services out there. So what we say to MSMEs is, don't take this decision lightly. Make sure you use insights into data that's available to you to make those decisions. And starting with, what skills do I need? What skills should I be looking out for? We realize over time that some people apply for jobs and they don't necessarily meet the criteria, but they still apply. But then the MSME who's hiring...
Maybe God might help you get the job.
Yeah, exactly. But the MSME who's hiring them is becoming desperate and just taking that person. We're saying, no, actually be very clear on what it is you're looking out for. So for job seekers, we always say, don't underestimate doing your research. Don't underestimate getting power of mentorship. And for the MSMEs, use data and insights to actually make those decisions and make it from a sense of let that data help you make an informed decision.
Right. Exactly. And what would you say inspired setting all of this up, and getting all of this data?
So if you recall, I had highlighted what our role is in terms of job creation, and over time, LSETF was set up 8 years ago, almost 9 years, will be 10 years next year, and realized that whilst we give access to finance, access to market, access to infrastructure, there's a lot that we have from a data repository point of view that it can't just be useful to us. It has to be useful to everybody else. And this was initiated by Ministry of Economic Planning and Budget, and saying that LSETF can work with the Ministry of Wealth Creation to actually get this data from both the demand side of labor and the supply side of labor, to actually ensure that certain decisions are made centrally. So that's really what inspired this, to say, let's have one central location that pulls in data from employers out there, that pulls in data from policymakers, that pulls in data from the educators, so universities as well are plugged into this, so that the person that's coming out of NYSC already knows, okay, if I want to work in this sector, these are the skills I need to have, without even having to go too far. It's information at your fingertip. And I should highlight at this point is Lagos LMIS.ng. Lagos LMIS.ng, and that's the site anyone can go in to find out that information.
Right. So what can I find out, on that website? Can I, get data on who's the amount of unemployed people in Lagos?
You can get that as well. You can actually get, from a job seeker perspective, you can actually get what skills are paramount. You can actually get, the wages. For example, we found out very recently that the average wage right now is about 125,000 naira. 125,000 naira. And in the reality is, like, things are getting tougher. So we need to encourage employers to actually find a way to increase that threshold if possible. Work with policymakers to make sure that people don't even pay below the minimum wage. Those are the kind of information that's in there as well. And then for students, I give the scenario of what it is, what skills are out there. And then even when you know, for example, I want to be an accountant, understanding that even after I finish my accounting degree, what are the industries I should aim for? Because as an accountant, there are different thresholds if you're practicing accounting in an engineering field or practicing accounting in a manufacturing company. So it helps you make that informed decision from the comfort of your home without necessarily having to, break a bank or take, just doing things the right way. And another thing we always say is for those that put job offers out there, I know people say, but we have LinkedIn. I agree with you, but it's beyond just LinkedIn. It's actually consolidating all of those job offers in one place to help people to make that decision.
Right,
so,
and talking about wage growth, we know that has not matched up, with inflation rates and currency devaluation and all of that.
Yeah.
Do you think employers are keen, on raising compensation?
Very good question. So we've had what we call public-private dialogue. So we host PPD sessions with our partner GIZ, the German consulate bank, the German government, sorry. And we realized at these PPD sessions where we pulled in employers, we pulled in certain employees, we pulled in the youth, we pulled in policymakers and asked these pertinent questions. And employers are saying, if we're getting value and we know that that person will be retained, we're happy to pay that. That's a very interesting insight. But guess what? People are skeptical because I hire you today and you leave after 6 months. And you leave after 6 months because you found a better offer. But as the employer, if you took your time to do the due diligence around that role, you could actually benchmark it in such a way that the role is attractive, you have the right retention strategy for your HR team, and then you can put that role out there so that person can actually stay in that job. So it's a whole culture shift for the employers and the employees, but ultimately starting with the data that's available on Lagos LMIS.ng.
Right. So, looking at, Lagos State, at this point, we have a lot of businesses that want to come and set up shop.
Here. Every day.
In Lagos. So, are you saying the labor supply matches demand, at this point in Lagos?
I think the demand is definitely more, but the jobs are out there. The demand is definitely more. I'm not going to lie to that because we even have a lot more people that are transitioning from being an employee to being an entrepreneur. We see that every day, and vice versa.
They've called it a hustle economy.
And everyone, but it's a good thing because everyone's ready to work. Everyone is ready to do something, and you can transition. The opportunities are there. But we've seen from our data that the job offers are actually there. People just need to plug in the right way, and people just need to take the time to do research and make sure that the skills that they have matches. And where it doesn't match, you're actually able to upskill. For example, at LSETF, we have free training programs, and I keep saying to my community, guys, you're not plugging into this. It's free in terms of online soft skills. What do I need to gain in terms of putting myself out there? How do I approach? How do I speak? All of these things help to actually boost your profile and help you be employable, and most importantly, help you retain that job. So these are the kind of conversations we are having at LSETF.
And how are you able to get, most of this data?
So we have surveys. We put out surveys. So please, anyone out there, if you get information from LSETF or requests for surveys, please respond to us. We also partner with a lot of our stakeholders to actually get information from their own stakeholders and then employers as well. So if anyone out there is thinking, how do I plug in, please reach out to us, info@lsetf.ng. Just share with us your details and someone will reach out to you to ask these questions. And then we also pull data from job sites as well. We also pull data from, job seekers when we give them out surveys, and then through our private-public dialogue as well. So it's a bit of data collection and data gathering that goes on.
Right.
And it's a continuous process.
And definitely, when it comes to the labor market, you have, different demographics, you
Correct.
have different mindsets.
Absolutely.
And, there's
Absolutely.
also that conversation about the Gen Z workforce at this time.
Yes,
Talk to me about what you're seeing there.
I must fight for the Gen Zs because I
Okay.
have a few of them in my office.
Right.
And my team are the most passionate team. Honestly, it's just about understanding them. And I'm constantly having that dialogue to say, guys, what do you need to work? So it's not that they don't want to work. It's the conditions around work. And I think that narrative has to change, where Gen Zs are being labeled, or the youth are being labeled as not wanting to work. In our PPD sessions, you'll be surprised how engaging the youth are. They're literally giving us feedback off the cuff, saying, at the last NYSC, blah, 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 this is information that we got in terms of understanding what they need. And they're willing to share that information with us. So I think it's just changing the narrative around the conditions that are being presented to them in terms of how they want to work. Flexi working, for example, I think COVID taught us a humongous thing in terms of people can do good work in the comfort of their home. So letting people know you can work 3 days in the office, 2 days at home, but provided you give me X, Y, Z. Put tasks in front of them, give them key targets that they need to reach, and you see them deliver. So I think it's just making sure that the environment for working is conducive and a little bit more flexible, and you will get the most out of them. Gen Zs are not, even millennials.
Even millennials.
If you do want to work.
At this point. All right, so, definitely conversation still about, boosting MSMEs, at this point.
Yes.
So what do you think should be the first move now, small business, looking to expand into Lagos? What do you think should be the first move, coming in here?
So I think the first move coming into Lagos is understanding the terrain and what you want to do, getting your LASRA ID. I don't know if anyone is I don't know if you're aware of this, but it's the Lagos State Residency Identity Card, LASRA. So it's important that you have that, because that's what shows us that you're a Lagos State resident. That's the first thing. And then obviously having all your KYC information in terms of who are you, who's Ladi, what does Ladi do,
right.
Making sure that Ladi is who he says he is. And then if you then in turn to secure funding or secure finances, it's important you have your house in order. So I wouldn't encourage anyone who's just coming in to say, I want a loan today, I want access to finance, and immediately you apply. Make sure you at least have 6 months worth of data that you can use to confirm, what you've done in the past and all of that. And then I would say ensure you have a clean credit bill. People take that for granted. If you've taken a loan previously...
Especially from the loan apps.
Exactly. Make sure you clear that out, because everyone is connected to the same... Talking about data again.
Right.
Everyone is connected to the same central data source when it comes to credit worthiness. So at LSETF, even as a government organization, we would not be able to grant you a loan without confirming your credit worthy. Even if it is 2 naira you owe, please clear that up before you approach. But I must say, access to finance is not the only issue. I was reading one of the comments from Honorable Odwole, and she highlighted that access to market is becoming a prominent thing, and that's very true. So part of our interventions is access to market. We also provide access to business support, and that's even one area that I want to speak to for those that are coming in new to this space. It's important that you know how to structure your business, how you store your data, how you record your data, and this is your financial data. So we have business support programs that link new businesses, startups with potential mentors that have gone ahead of them and done this well, and helping them to structure their business. And we've had good success stories from that. We've had people come to us and say, oh, I attended this program on how to structure my business in terms of financial readiness and all of that. And since then, I've been able to hire 2 more people. That's where our intervention is much needed, because we're able to create jobs by helping this business structure, what they do. And then access to market, like I said, we partner with MCCTI, we partner with a lot of trade fairs to make sure that anyone that wants to get their produce out there in the right community, they have an opportunity to do that. We have one coming up at LSETF in partnership with LASPAC and the Ministry of Agric in July. Look out for that. Next month, look out for that information. If you're a small business and you want an opportunity to showcase what you do in the agri space or the entire agri value chain, it's going to be at the Letty Jakande Park in Alausa. So please look out for information around that. So those are the kind of interventions we do to support that MSME, to set them up for success and let them realize that you're not doing it alone. Everyone's gone through this. You can take lessons learned and don't make that same mistake, but ultimately speak up and reach out for help.
Right. And do you see other states, having this kind of initiative, or is it just Lagos, or are we seeing partnerships?
Yeah, other states have these initiatives without a doubt. Believe it or not, this year alone, we've had Kaduna come to us to just take some lessons learned, knowledge sharing. We've had Kano as well. We've had Ekiti. We've had Ogun State. So we're always willing to share information and share synergy on what has worked for us in Lagos State. And we're also always taking feedback as well. We don't say we know it all, so we constantly seek feedback from our stakeholders, and then we also leverage on expertise out there to ensure that we're sharing knowledge, and we're intervening to support that MSME ecosystem. But yes, other states are doing the same, maybe not in the same capacity, because we are an agency reporting to the Ministry of Wealth Creation. Some states don't have LSETF, like for like, but they also do work with the ministry as well. So we're in touch with other commissioners through our commissioner, Honorable Ajibotafe, to just ensure that knowledge is being shared and the entire MSME ecosystem is supported across board.
And with all the data you've seen, you've gone through, so far, talk to me what you're seeing for the labor market in Lagos, and also how easy is it to get some of this data?
So I already said, if you just go on the website immediately, Lagos LMIS.
No, I mean for you. How do you,
Oh God, it's very...
Is it difficult?
It's not difficult. I must confess, it's not. It's just getting the buy-in. Let people realize the value of collecting this data and what they can use the data for. So the more people we have that buy-in, like yourself, the more people plugged in, the easier the data will come forth. So it's not really difficult. It's just getting the more buy-in we need to actually make sure that data is available and ready for anyone that wants access to it. So that's really that's really it. And I think, as I'm sure you appreciate, data is always evolving, right?
Oh, yes.
So the person yesterday that gave us data that he's unemployed has gotten a job today. So that data has changed. You see what I mean? So we constantly have to keep collecting data and enriching data that we have already.
Right. So with all the data collected, so far, what are you seeing for the labor market in Lagos?
So labor market, I think so far we have engaged about 46,000 job seekers. We've engaged about 23,000 students, and also review 24,000 job offers. And we're realizing for job seekers, without a doubt, you need to ensure a like-for-like match when you see a job offer. It's very important. And don't underestimate the power of mentorship to help you put yourself in a better position when applying for a job. And also don't underestimate research as well. For the employers, I said there are different stakeholders. For the employers, pretty similar feedback, but research is key, and using the data and insights to ensure that the role you're putting out is the best value you're getting in terms of how much you're positioning the role at. So that's the kind of information that we highlighted as well. And then for the policymakers, I think it's just for us to know that we have to enforce minimum wage, for example. So certain decisions we need to take that anyone that's paying out there is not paying below, minimum wage. Those are the kind of insights that you could get from Lagos LMIS.ng.
Right. And what are you seeing for remote work?
What am I seeing for remote work?
Yeah.
Nothing specifically just yet, but from the conversations we've had, we're seeing people say that productivity doesn't actually suffer as long as there's trust. So we will be engaging a bit more specific to that at our next PPD session. But we're hearing feedback that, look, productivity, as long as people know what they're supposed to do and the tasks are laid out for them, and there's a way of measuring that productivity, you would actually get results. But we'll come back to that when we have a chance to ask specific to that.
We have a lot of people now, working remotely for organizations, outside the country, and they're bringing in foreign currency.
And they're bringing FX, exactly, and that's a medium that we want to tap into, because there are people that have really good skills. For example, the AI is one that's coming up quite very strongly, and we have, as part of our Lagos Innovates program under LSETF, we've partnered with Ingrid, partnered with PLP, and these are people that are giving training to anyone in Lagos State that wants to learn how to code, that wants to learn how to do data scientists, to actually then put them in a position where they can not only service the Nigeria ecosystem, they have access to service other employers abroad. So that speaks to the kind of model you're speaking to. But people can't do that if we don't have data. It's very important that.
Right. So there's hope. If you're looking for a job out there, there's work to do.
There's work to do.
At this point. Thank you so much for helping us break this down. Feishayo Alayode, she's the CEO of Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me, Ladi. It's been really good. And thank you to the whole Channels team. I appreciate it. Hello, Lagos.
Hello, Lagos. All right, so still to come on Business Monday, we get expectations for the global oil market. We're seeing dramatic moves with prices there. What does that mean for fuel? That's in a moment. Just stay with us.